I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Atsuko Chiba are a Montreal five-piece creating exciting layers of what has been defined as experimental rock. The band have said that keeping things simple has been their focus and that much of the upcoming self-titled fourth album started as free jams. Whatever it is they've done, this album is amazing. I'm speaking to David and Kevin from the band. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Hello.
Atsuko Chiba are plugged as an experimental rock band, but I think that's a very narrow description of what you do personally. What genre or genres would you put the band in?
I mean, I feel like that's kind of the easiest one to label us as, just because the music is kind of changing, sometimes in big ways from record to record. So experimental rock kind of encompasses a couple different things, but by nature, it's like experimental music, which is always kind of pushing forward and changing and not afraid to evolve. We're not really specific with that type of things or conscious of it, really. I think that's just the one that makes sense.
It's just been like this sort of blanket statement that's been put on our group since the beginning. I think whether we make experimental music or not, I'm not sure if that's necessarily like true to form, but like I can definitely say for sure that we experiment a lot. We try new things all the time. We're always reaching for something different, something new. And I think even for us, we've always had a hard time describing what we do because we kind of are a little bit everywhere, trying different things all the time.
You don't stick to the rules, you just do what feels good.
Yeah, exactly. We just follow that bliss every time, and it leads us down different pathways all the time. We might be more into a certain thing at one point and another thing at another point, and like somehow that makes sense to us. And so we just kind of follow that and go with that.
The band name, is it inspired by the 2006 anime film Paprika?
Yeah, it is.
Why? Why is that film so special to you guys?
It's funny because I feel like it's taken on such a meaning in all our lives through this band. But the truth of that story is that like we sort of came from two different bands, and we kind of grew up in the same circles in Montreal. We decided we were going to form a band for one night, and we had no music. We had nothing planned for the event. We just decided we're going to improvise. So we got together for 2 weeks, sort of created a framework for a bit of music, and then we decided we're just going to perform it. But the time came to performing, and we didn't have a name. So the night before, I was watching Paprika, and the doctor Atsuko Chiba just kept coming up, and I was like, let's just be Atsuko Chiba for the night, and it just followed us for the rest of our lives.
I think that first show kind of like was a big spearhead for what was to come and the longevity that we have now, because we've been a band for like almost 15 years at this point. So like I think like that one show gave us enough, like the bug got us kind of thing, so we wanted to keep rehearsing and taking what we did like during that live show, that kind of improvised, loose structured set, and turn it into something which ended up becoming our first EP. And then I think like we just kind of wanted to continue going and keep seeing like, oh, where else can we go with this,
I think you've answered the next question, but if there's anything to add, go for it. What was the musical starting point when the band formed? I mean, you had some jams and you sort of created something organically, and that's obviously what you've been doing. But did you have a sort of, we all like this band or we all like this style of music, let's start from there?
Look, we didn't have like specific discussions about anything like that. But like Kev was saying before, like we've known each other for a very long time, and we've been friends for a very long time at this point. So we have always been, even before like kind of starting to play together, sharing music and kind of going to the same types of shows, like back in the day anyway, growing up like in the scene together. I feel like the way that we play and the things that we do has evolved over time, but it's always kind of been central to us just like being friends for a very long time. I feel like it seeps into the music and what we do, you know?
We all share like common tastes. What's become obvious over the years is that we all have like tastes that's slightly different from one another, but there is like a common thread for sure. I think at the time it was really just about wanting to do something really different and free and new. And like we were both coming from situations where like it wasn't quite working out the way we wanted it to. And then the five of us sort of came together and we just thought, why don't we just do something together and just have fun? That aspect of it has never left. It's always about having a good time and having fun and sort of making each other laugh. And sometimes it's through music too. Like it seems like the best ideas are always the ones that make us laugh somehow.
The latest album is due for release soon. I've played a track on my radio show, Torn, and I'm pretty obsessed about this one, probably because it covers so many bases, as we've touched on already. It seems to be less of a lesson in songwriting and more of a collaborative approach due to trying to make something new. Is that how you feel about it?
A lot of our music is truly collaborative. Like it's very much like us coming into a room, not sure what's going to happen, and then we sort of lock into something, and then it goes from there. That song specifically, like that was worked from a demo that Karim came in with. Pretty skeletal. There was like a riff and the beginning of a vocal idea from what I remember, and we decided it fit really well on the record, and we just elaborated on it and like made it. We brought it into the room, and like most things that come into the room, it came out a little different. That was one of the songs that we worked from like a demo idea, and we collaborated on like giving it structure, also adding parts and all this stuff. And that is like one way we work. Like this record saw us work in many, many different ways. I didn't realize it until we were done the record. Like some of it started off as like blank statement jams, really open ended. And then as we progressed towards the end of the record, we thought, well, maybe why don't we go into the bank of demos? Because we're always sharing demos all the time. And that was one of the demos we chose, and we elaborated on it and it became what it is now. And I really like that song too. It's one of my personal favorites as well.
Everything that Kev said, I agree with totally. I feel that way about like a couple different songs, you know, like a song like Locked in Array, like started as a very short 1-minute demo. And then like once we started passing it through the filter of the five of us, like in the room, trying different things, I was really surprised by where it was going. And then it ended up being a really interesting acoustic 9-minute track. It's amazing. You never really know where the song is going to go when an idea comes into the room, you know, like a song like Torn. I kind of remember us making decisions very quickly. You know, we need to have like this type of part now and then bring this part back and like those types of decisions. Whereas like a track like Locked in Array is so open in the way that it is and the way that it feels is that. So we relied a lot more on jamming to kind of bring us to the conclusion of where it ended up going. That's another favorite of mine personally, just because it's the first song we've ever really done with acoustic guitar in that way. And it's also like one of the slowest songs we've done. So it was cool to put that one together for sure.
At what point do you start to work on the lyrics? Is that something that comes at the end, or do you sort of get some ideas of some words as you're making it? What's the sort of, and who writes the lyrics? Is it everybody, or is it you, David, and the singer?
It all comes from Karim. I would say like a 99% of it, like probably like 100% of it, I would think. And it kind of comes in a couple different ways. Like sometimes there's a bit more of an idea that he has in mind in terms of like a subject matter he wants to write about. But I would say the majority of the time, parts and like and maybe rhythms come phonetically at first, and then he starts to kind of like throw in different words and concepts at that type of rhythm and framework. And then that usually kind of is his process in terms of writing lyrics, although it kind of like varies depending on the song, because like some have a lot more lyrics and some have a lot less, so it really depends on what the song needs. But I would say like in general, over the course of the years, we've been featuring vocals as a more traditional like main focused element, the way that a lot of other bands are. We started off as like an instrumental band with like very few vocals, and then I think the songs themselves started changing and requiring more and more vocals. It was like a work in progress for a very long time, but yeah, no, Karim is definitely the one who comes up with all of those general concepts.
The other thing I'll say is that like it does change from song to song, like Dave
Yeah.
said. Like example, Torn is a good example where like I remember what he had was the intro part and like a bit of the first verse from what my memory can remember. So then we elaborated the song, and then it became sort of he took on the role of like trying to find new lyrics, tell like further the story, further the lyrical content, the melodies, and all that stuff. So sometimes, like if we're working from a demo, if it's a demo that Karim brought to the fold, there might be lyrics in there, like small lyrics, or there might be an elaborated lyric potentially. On the flip side, if it's a demo that comes from somebody else, then he does the work of like trying to find vocal melodies and like and lyrics and all that stuff. And then also, like I said, we have a lot of different processes. Sometimes it's really just blank jamming. Like it's like you come in with no preconceived idea, and you say we're going to hit record, and we're going to play for 3 hours tonight. And then at the end of the jam, we'll see if something comes out of it, and then we might choose one of those ideas and elaborate on that. The writing process takes a lot of different shapes. On this record, I feel like it's one of the things that we wanted to do is sort of bring the vocals like forward, make a more vocal driven record, which we had already started going down that road on the last record, but we wanted to kind of go further into that. So a lot of the decisions we made were to give space to a vocal all the time.
Actually, another question about that. As you say, you've added more vocals as the band has evolved. Do you think that's kind of come naturally as you've become more comfortable using words as well as music to tell the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Karim has mentioned that before too. It's like, and we see it as well. He always was somebody who was writing lyrics and raps and things like that. But in the band context, like it wasn't really like utilized in that way. But as he started doing some more and more, I think like the confidence and also like you start to like develop like your own language at some point. Like it's kind of like when you play guitar or bass or piano or whatever for like a very long time, you start to just become so comfortable that you could start pushing yourself in ways that you never did before, because like your ability to like get there is stronger than if like you don't really know like or don't have experience. So I think like that definitely played like a role on how many vocals or how much more vocals there is in the new music. But also at the same time, like the direction we were going in terms of like the stuff we were playing was also going in that direction. So it kind of like both things were happening simultaneously, I think.
I think at the band, we often give ourselves room to try new things. And like, I feel like when it comes to like, let's say the vocals is a good example, but there's other examples of that too, where it's like on this record, there's a lot more synthesizers and more keyboards and all that stuff. And that's also like a thing that's been bubbling for a long time. And we just get more and more comfortable trying new things all the time. Yeah, we're always just like moving in different directions. Maybe we will do another instrumental record at some point. I have no idea.
Oh yeah.
So this is album number 4. Why was now the time to release a self-titled album?
The answer to that question is, in a way, it's complicated, but it's pretty simple. I think we're a band who's sort of moved around a lot, tried a lot of different things. And I think from the get-go, we were a band that sort of we found our sound, our way of doing things like in the public eye. Like I said, we were a band for 2 weeks when we played our first show, like, and then from then on, we kept recording and we just kept trying new things, adapting to new things. And I think by the time we got to this record, it just finally felt like the time to say, this is Atsuko Chiba through and through. It's us. There's a few things that like around this record, like finally felt like the time, like, we wanted to use a picture rather than an animation or a drawing. It ended up being a diorama of a picture that was taken in Montreal, but we wanted to just bring pieces of ourselves. Like we wanted to just kind of, even all the videos around the music are just videos of us hanging out, because truly like being in this band is just us being friends hanging out. I think it just felt like now is the time to like sort of own that on a more musical level. Like this is just us.
I think that's what it is though. Like it really represents like who we are as people and what we mean to each other. Also, like during the recording of this record, there was a lot of moments where like it took the 5 of us to work through some parts that maybe like we weren't really like feeling, or you know, because we were trying stuff for like, you know, the first time in terms of like, you know, arranging things and not relying on like things like distortion or big heavy crescendos or anything like that, you know. So I think like the trust that we have for each other and the friendship is also like another important thing that kind of just seeps into the record. So I feel like that just makes sense to say like, well, this is us.
What do you think has changed in the way the band works together since forming 15 years ago? Not necessarily musically, but in general, the way you bounce off of each other, the way you are together. What has developed in that time?
Communication has improved to a degree that's unimaginable. Not to say that we didn't communicate properly before, but like we have such a shorthand with each other. I don't think there's a single person in this band that like I wouldn't understand they're having a bad day or whatever when they show up to practice and I can feel it on them. That's just one small example of what I'm trying to say is like sometimes not much needs to be said. Sometimes we just do. Sometimes we talk a lot. I would say total comfort. For me on a personal level, there's not many people I feel this comfortable with like being vulnerable and like open and like you share so much of your life with your family, which for me this band is a family, you know. It's even like outside the band we often hang out together.
I mean, I think you're right for sure.
So, what would be the song from the entire time period of the band that somebody should listen to who doesn't know who the band is that sums up what you are and who you are?
If there's like one particular sound or one particular thing, it's the same thing like trying to put like a genre on our band. It's like I don't really know where to start because it's like they're all so different. But I don't know. I think like one that I would mention just to like, I don't know, maybe have the new record as like a starting point. I would say Retention, because I feel like that's like one of the ones that it sounds extremely different than anything we've ever done before. But I think you can kind of hear the excitement that we had for it because we were like, you know, maybe we didn't quite understand it at first as it was getting put together. But once it was done and put like in context with the rest of the record, I remember like that song kind of like really taking on a lot of meaning and kind of like also just representing like, yeah, I love the fact that we did this type of song with this type of feel, with these types of like sounds, because we've never really done that before. And that's kind of the point of the band, to like be surprised by certain things, especially when you go from record to record. But something that sounds a bit more traditionally Atsuko Chiba, I would say like a favorite of mine is a song called Shook from our last record called Water, It Feels Like It's Growing. That's like another good spot. It's kind of mellow, but it kind of amps up a little bit, but not too much. So it kind of like represents a couple different things to what we do.
I think for me, like if I could give like two songs to cheat on the question a little,
I mean, I cheated, so you get to cheat too.
I think I would do something like I think Shook is a good one, or even a song called Seeds on the last record. And then something like Pope's Cocaine, which was like on our last EP. And like I know I'm not mentioning any songs from this record because I think all the songs on this record like are seeing us go in a new direction, and like I'm interested to see how people will respond to it. But the reason I say Seeds and like Popes is just because I feel they kind of represent the extremes of the band. Like on something like Seeds, you know, we had a chance to record like a string quartet, do like this hypnotic jam for like 7 minutes, and just kind of like go far out with it and like all this stuff. And then you get something like Pulse, which is like a 2.5 minute song with like crazy screaming and just obnoxiously loud and fast guitars and drum beats. And I don't know, like I think if you give those two songs to someone, they might be like, okay, well, that gives me a good idea of what this band is. Like it's like something like this or something like this. And both those things seem very different, maybe. I don't know. Or Torn on the new record is a good one.
Looking at your YouTube and the video for Torn, in some way depicts a version of the band making the album, I assume, with some clips of driving in the snowy highways while still being in the same yellow frame that the album cover sits in. Tell me about the thinking behind the video.
It was kind of us just deciding that we were going to be us. I think for a long time, even when you would come see our band, like there's a lot happening. There's visuals happening. There's like, for a long time we were instrumental, and then we were more instrumental, got more vocal driven. And I feel like it was just an opportunity to let people into our universe, our world, and like our sensibilities and like who we are as people, I think. I think that's why, this album is self-titled. I think a lot of the material around this record is showing us hanging out, having a good time, being people. That's what we do it for, is just to be with each other. The decision behind the video was just to basically show whoever was interested, show a piece of that, like get people to understand the vibe of the five of us hanging out.
As I mentioned in the intro, the band had many free jam sessions to create the basis for this album, and also you mentioned that that's how you started as well. Is that something you do on stage as well? Do you allow yourselves to sort of slip away and try things, or are you quite structured when you play live because you've already done the experimenting?
We're quite structured, I think, like these days. I think like there's always like a certain element of flexibility, but I think with our new rig, the bones of it are kind of anchored in now. But the music kind of like lends itself for a change even within that, like having played a couple shows recently where we started road testing songs like Retention and Future Ways from the new record. They're already kind of changing and evolving a little bit live. And from show to show, they were morphing. And then you can tell that like within the seemingly like harder structure, there was still quite a bit of room to be yourself and to go with the feeling of things.
There's also a lot of moments in between songs where we could stretch a bit also. So like something we've always done as a band is sort of build our sets live a bit like a DJ set, where it's like we try to always find ways to move from one song into the other. And sometimes that involves creating like interludes and like sound pieces or little jams in between. That's always fun because live you give yourself a lot of freedom to try new things. Sometimes there's like a little framework where you're like, oh, we're gonna have like a little moment here, but we don't. Every night it'll change. One night it gets crazy, and another night it's really soft.
You played some European shows a few years back. What would you say is the difference between the ways audiences receive you in Europe and in North America?
It's pretty different, I think. I also find the way that the touring circuit in Europe works versus the way the touring circuit works in the US or North America is pretty different also. Even between Canada and in the US, it's pretty different. One thing I remember is that like in Germany, people seem to really pay attention to the music. I remember feeling like people are there to watch and listen to the music. But then we played a show in New Orleans in the US, and it's like that was the craziest. Like everybody was there dancing and having a good time. It's hard because like it could be a night to night thing or it could be a cultural thing. It's hard to know which one it is.
The thing that I've always observed too, though, is that in Europe, like there's a bit more of a culture for people to go see something when they don't necessarily know what it is. Like people go to the venue. There's always a bit of a crowd no matter what. I'll remember our show in Prague on that tour. We've never been there before, and it was one of the better shows on that tour, and it went super well, and there was a bunch of people there, and we had such a great evening. But we've never been there before. It's just one of those things, I guess, maybe like knew of the name, but maybe they just go to this place anyway and support the bands that are coming through.
You played 4 shows during this year's South by Southwest Festival. How do you find showcase events? I mean, you've been together for a long time now. Is it something that feels a bit tedious these days, or do you enjoy the difference between a standard show and a showcase festival?
I think for us, it ends up being a show one way or the other. Like we're playing to an audience. The South by experience was interesting. The conditions are kind of working against you, actually. Like you do a line check for like half a minute, and then you play in front of like a place filled with people. For a band like ours, that's really it kind of works against us. We have a lot going on. We have synthesizers and visuals and lights and like guitars and vocals and effects everywhere, and it's a little bit more difficult for us to walk into a situation like that. But then you make it work and you play the best you can, and you end up playing to people. Like I don't see the people at a showcase as any different from people coming to see a paid show for our band. Early on, we would play shows sometimes to like not many people because you go to a town in the middle of nowhere that like nobody knows about the show, and you tried your best to promote it, but it didn't quite work out. And like you still play your heart out, like you, at least we did. We always played as best as we could. South by Southwest, it was fun. It was really chaotic. And one day we played like 4 shows in one day. Our first show, I think, was at noon or something like that. And our last show was at 1 a.m. and we were trying to get an Uber from one show to the other, get to the place, set up, sound check in half a minute, and then you play to a bunch of people. And it's like your fourth show of the day.
You've got a show in July supporting Goat in your home city as part of the Festival International de Jazz. It's a huge event. It actually broke the world record for attendance in 2023, I read.
Yeah, I mean, the Jazz Fest is a huge event in Montreal. It attracts lots of tourists, but a lot of really, really great talent too. It's a very cool event for sure.
Goat are amazing. I love Goat. I've seen them twice. Fantastic live band, and I actually think you'll fit really well on the same bill as them.
We're very excited for that show. I don't think they've ever been to Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a cool night to finally get to see them for sure.
So have you got a release party or tour planned for this yet? Because I can't see anything listed anywhere.
I mean, we don't really have a release show just yet, but we are working on several dates between now and the summer pretty much, which haven't been announced just yet actually. So there is some stuff that will be announced shortly in and around our general home area, but we're looking to kind of get back to Europe as well. So there's a couple things that we're currently working on, but nothing that's been announced just yet.
So the final question, what music are you listening to at the moment that listeners to the podcast may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
I mean, there's a band called Robber.
I've just added them to my latest playlist for my radio show, actually. Brilliant band, yeah.
Yeah, their new album is so good. I mean, I really like what I heard before. They had a record, I think, come out in 2022 or whatever the last one was really good too, and that kind of got me into them. But their new record is very cool.
I've been on a bit of an Arthur Russell kick. For the listeners who don't know who Arthur Russell is, he made music in the 80s. He's from New York, and he kind of fused classical and disco music. It's really interesting stuff. And actually, me and Dave were texting before about a local band called Population 2. They just released an EP, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's good.
It's kind of different for them too, more synth driven and more ambient.
Yeah, there's no guitars on it at all, which I thought was really cool. They already had that side of them, but I find this EP really goes deeper in that side. It's really good. The new Kim Gordon record is amazing. Also, it's called Play Me.
Yep.
It's really, really good. I think she's one of the coolest artists ever. Having come from Sonic Youth, which was already such a influential band, to still be doing really weird experimental music in your 70s, I find is just, I don't know, that's cool.
Also, I just got turned on to this record by a band called Polyrock. They're from the 80s. I guess I'm listening to a little bit of older music, but it's some weird post-punk New York type music from the 80s. But you have Philip Glass on keyboards, which I didn't even know he ever played in a band. And I thought that was really cool.
He's on keyboard on that record?
He's on the first two albums. He plays keyboard in the band. I was really surprised.
That's cool.
And there's another band too that I've been listening to a lot lately called Aura. I think it's pronounced Orua, or I'm not sure exactly how to say. They're from Brazil. Really cool, psychedelic, kind of krautrocky rocky type vibe. Very trippy. It's spelled Orua with an accent on the A.
So for people wishing to find out more about Atsuko Chiba, the band are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube and Bandcamp. And the self-titled album is released on Friday the 24th of April, both physically on Canary Yellow Special Edition 140-gram vinyl, 140-gram black vinyl and CD, and will be on all streaming platforms. David and Kevin, great to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Man.